Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the dive jump. Today, we're going to jump into diving, and I think the most important thing we're going to do, Mr. Hammer, is talk about
Yes.
gear. We talked a little bit about gear last time, right? Um, I think we talked about a little bit too much gear, and I think today we're going to take that gear and we're going to go diving. But
Okay.
this is not your course. You don't have an instructor. You're just going to
hmm
go on the internet, click, 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 and you're going to go diving. The most common mistake people do when they book their dive trips is doing too much too fast and then they don't enjoy it. I think.
You say if you don't have 50 dives that you did in a no environment, don't go on a boat for a week.
Look, I think before you spend $2,000 on a flight ticket and take time off work and do your big dive trip, maybe you should do some local diving first just to get really good at all. Look, you bought all that gear, it's very expensive. Maybe you should learn to use it well. Um, I would say that people get certified and immediately go on that big liveaboard trip. And that's a problem.
I didn't do it, but
I don't think I could have afforded it when I started diving, but but people can't afford it nowadays. They don't learn to dive. They don't get certified in order to learn how to dive. They get certified to get the experiences. It's
right.
transactional. I want to go do the cool things that I see on Facebook and Instagram. I want to go see the big ships, the big animals, the mantas, dive with the whale sharks, dive with the sharks in, the great whites in wherever in Australia, Striamite in South Africa, and they like the card is the passport to the world. The open water, paddy card that you have 4 dives, and then they buy their GoPro, put it on a stick, on a selfie stick, and go. And I think both of us agree that that might be a problem, right?
Yeah, I think that when you finish your diving course and then you book a trip in 2 months from now, and you don't do any dives between the 6, 8, 12 dives that you did in the course, to this trip that you're supposed to dive 4 times a day for, I don't know, 6 days, uh, I think that it's not gonna be. You have a very small chance that it will be as you expected. It it could be a big problem for you because you want to enjoy all this attraction, and you need to be much more experienced, and you need to work on your muscle memory. It's supposed to be not something that I'm thinking about my buoyancy, that
And it's
I'm
not just
thinking about.
physiological, right? It's there's
No,
there's
it's
there's 3 things. There's the physical part, which is you are not physically capable of, like I can't get up from the chair right now and run a marathon.
right.
Just can't do it, right? I would need like a year of practice. Um, so there's a physical side. You can't just get up one day and do 10 dives in, in 48 hours. It just doesn't work, like
The,
5 dives a day.
the, the biggest thing in diving, if you want to enjoy it, is for you to be comfortable. If you're comfortable in the water, you will enjoy the dive. To be comfortable, you need a good mask that doesn't have fog and water inside. And you need the BCD that when you inflate it, it inflates, and when you deflate it, it deflates, and it's comfortable on your body. And you need to be able to be in control in the water so you can stay the depth you want and descend slowly so your ear will not hurt, and you're not experienced diver, so a lot of things can be uncomfortable for you if you don't first become more experienced. I'm not saying dive 100 dive, but do some kind of small checks. Do like a day trip for 2, 3 dives on a boat before you book yourself somewhere in the Maldive Island or in Cocos Island, 10-day trip.
I think you made a good point here. So let's say that you are like a lot of people on the East Coast and you get your certification dives in some quarry, which is basically like a muddy lake, right? It's a muddy hole in the ground. Um,
Yeah. It's a
your
swimming
first,
pool.
A swimming pool, a very cold swimming pool that you can't see anything. And
Yeah,
you go to and you just want it over with as quickly as possible because you're not allowed to put on a dry suit. So it's very, very cold. The instructor's in a dry suit, but you're just very cold, very uncomfortable in general. And you're like, I can't wait to get to the warm water of Palau, Maldives, liveaboard, wherever, in the Bahamas. So
yeah,
I, I, I I do understand that going back to that quarry is not something you want to do, but maybe, okay, so getting that experience in your course environment is probably not a good idea because you're getting the wrong kind of experience. You're going to be uncomfortable, you're going to be unhappy, you're just going to hate the whole experience. So for that, I would say, it is important to go to where you're going to do dives. And the first time, so I would say the first time you're going on your boat dive, right? It's the first time you're on a boat. For a lot of people, it's the first time they've ever been on a boat. I would say book like 2 days, weekend.
yeah.
Go for the weekend or, if you're doing a cruise with your family, say like, well, one of the days I'm going to go sign up for a 2 tank dive and it's all arranged for you. They pick you up, they put you on the boat, they take you like this into the water, you come out, just make life easy.
Yeah, and even if you're 2 months after your course, I would book myself when I get, I don't know, to Mexico to a resort and I go to dive center and I say I want somebody to take me on a boat for to dive. I would pay the money to put their equipment that I'm gonna rent and take instructor or dive master and pay them for some kind of refresh dive, something that they will give me some of the exercises. Let's take off the mask, take off the regulator, put it back, feel the BCD that's different from my course, feel the regulator, that everything is comfortable, and then after you do some exercises and you feel your buoyancy, you breathe air in, you go up, you take air out, you're going down, you're getting warm up for real dive, and then if you're doing this refresher course in a swimming pool in the dive center at one day, and then next day in the morning you come after your. Yesterday I was diving, so now I'm going on a boat, and we talked about it, and we get some serious dive center to give me a briefing, and I'm going to dives. If that's going well and you enjoyed it, then you do another one like this, and then you can start thinking about going on a boat and doing all day long, 2, 3, 4 dives from a boat,
So
and
let's
live
say
on
that's what
live aboard
happens.
and stuff.
You're talking about someone who just finished their class and they are 2 months after the class and they're coming to their
Yeah,
first, dive. Okay. So and I think that's good for someone who just finished their thing. But let's say someone did listen to us, two idiots on the internet, right? Let's say someone did listen to us and they
but
said, you
very
know what,
handsome.
uh, you you are the handsome one. So let's say that we have a guy, or we have a buddies, and they have done what we said. They went on the, sh- the dives. They did a weekend. They grew it into longer and longer trips, and now they're ready for their first big dive trip. They have what you said, 50 dives, let's say 40, 50 dives, and they
Yeah.
did them over the course of 2 or 3 trips. It took them like they do one every 6 months, and now they're going on their first big liveaboard. They got on the
And I would
plane.
love them to come. I would love them to come after they did 1, 2, 3 specialty courses.
Let's
They
say they
they
just did.
got certified as a buoyancy diver, as
Okay, no.
uh,
Let's say they're done with that. They are 50 dives in. They have maybe a deep specialty. Maybe one of them did nitrox, or both of them did nitrox at some point. Uh, they're working towards their advanced. They're doing a perfect buoyancy or whatever. But they did the standard thing, like what we told them to do. Now they're
yeah.
going on their first big, like 7 day live aboard, the kind where you land in the airport, you go to the boat, and you don't see land for the next 7 days. What do they need to know for that big trip?
First of all, if you paid a lot of money, people will do everything for you. They will put together the equipment. They will take apart the equipment.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I
Okay.
recommend you to make sure that you're really, really comfortable with the assembling of the equipment, I would prefer to assemble it myself. I don't mind that somebody else will take it apart and wash it after my dive. But before my dive, when it's my life, I would prefer to put the regulator on the tank and check that I don't have leaks and that everything is like I want it to be. And this is what I would do any dive. I would check the equipment before my dive, and I would check my buddy's equipment, and he would check mine before I'm going in the water, even though I'm in a luxury boat and I have people that can do that for me. I would check my equipment myself.
So we call this princess mode diving, right? You're
Hmm.
diving in princess mode. You walk onto the boat. You are, you're the one who paid all this money to get here. They
Yeah,
basically, do everything for you. And I, if you are relatively new, I would ask to be involved in the process. I would ask. I would say, I want to be involved in my, gear assembly and stuff. There are places, and again, this is just from my experience, there are places where the gear is on a small boat, and you have the big boat, which is where you live on, like that's where you eat and sleep and, do all the recreational stuff. But you get on the boat, you assemble the gear once, and then they only take the regulator off, and they have hoses to the compressor. They put it on and you never disassemble and reassemble. You basically
yeah,
only, you get onto the small dive boat, and they don't want you. And when you get on the small dive boat, they don't want you walking around too much. They don't want you like, because it's dangerous. I mean, these boats are dangerous. They're built like, like a dive deck, and there's lots of sharp things, and you are sailing in the big water, and things move around, and they kind of want you to sit down with your gear and hold on to everything, and so you don't lose things as well. You don't want to lose that $3,000 camera.
yeah.
So you have to learn how that works. And look, it's easy to say after you've had experience in small boats, big boats, diving from cruise ships, diving from tiny little Zodiacs. It's easy to say, oh yeah, just get on the boat and do this. Every boat is a little bit different. Every dive master likes to do things a little bit different. Sometimes there's a dangerous exit and entry. It looks a little bit spicier, right? You roll back, and then getting up on the boat, you have to like kind of swim up, and someone else grabs the gear. And sometimes you have a ladder, right?
Yeah.
So it's when we say, "Oh yeah, just go on the liveaboard," it's fine. Pay attention to what's going on and tell them, "I would like to be involved in the process." You
I
want
would
the
never,
experience.
I would never jump from a boat if I didn't see the ladder and that it's really comfortable and easy for me to go on
That's
back to
you.
the boat.
I have jumped off boats not knowing, like from the second deck, not knowing. Yeah, yeah, I know I'm a little wackier than you. Not even
I did
knowing
it
how.
as well. I did it as well. This is why I'm checking it.
I mean, obviously the correct thing to do is to do the safest entry and exit out of the boat. And look, and the reality is for most people who learned from boats, like their course was from boats, to them, the opposite, like the shore diving
Mm.
would be the hard part because it's like you're driving a car, you're parking on the beach, and now you have to walk with all the gear down the stairs into the water, or walking on rubble or hard coral or something, and you have
And
booties
waves.
and waves that hit you, and the waves are this big. That's it. They just come up to your knee and they take you out because you have all that gear and you're wobbly, and they take you out. And that to me is a kind of makes the jump. If you're going to go into an environment that you haven't been to before, it could be a boat, it could be a shore entry, it could be a cave, cavern something entry, like diving in a river or something. If you've never been there before, I think it's good to not go independently, but to go to get a guided dive. Pay the guide one
Always.
time to show you how to do the entry and whatever.
I have 15,000 dives in my not written logbook, and I would pay a dive master to take me into the water somewhere I've never been in.
Somewhere I've never been in. You don't know the currents. You don't know how.
It's
Look, if I
very
go,
embarrassing. It's very embarrassing to ask questions, but you have to not be shy. You have Ask a lot of questions about current, about time of the day that it's better to go diving, about visibility, about how do I get into the water, if it's a boat, if it's on the shore. Make sure that I know how to get out of the water. Somewhere you go into the water and current will take you a mile away and you need to get out. And this is the way they dive there. And you need to know that. Because if you start fighting the current, you finish your air, you have to not be shy. You have to take the tank. And if you see that you don't have, I don't know, 3,000 psi, you don't want this tank. You want them to feel it before you go into the water. You need to ask the question and meet your demands from yourself. You want a full tank and not 80% full tank. You want the equipment to be okay and not leaking stuff. And you want it to be comfortable. The fins, if they're not comfortable, you're gonna get out of the water tired and hurt. And if the mask is full of water all the time, you're not gonna see the dive and you're not gonna enjoy it. And if you're really not experienced, it could lead for a bad dive or end the dive before time, or even worse. So ask a lot of questions. Make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure you're going with the right guy into the water. Because if I'm talking about Israel, for example, a lot of people don't like to take dive master. They like to find themselves a body and they go into the water. And if you just find online a body and you go with him, you don't really know that he's like you in the way he's thinking. And then you get somebody that maybe is very confident, but he's not really have the experience to be that confident. And then you find yourself in a big problem in the water. Take dive master whenever you go somewhere you don't know, and choose your bodies carefully if you choose a body. Make sure
So
you
so
don't
this
jump in the
brings
water with
me
somebody.
this
Yeah.
brings me to a point. The next point is InstaBuddy. So like you said, sometimes you decide to be cheap and you say, I'll just find a buddy, right? And so,
Yeah.
hey, are you diving? Yes, I'm
Mhm.
diving. And I've done this before. And look, I am confident. I am like a perfect Insta buddy. If you see me at a dive site and you're like, hey, can I join your group? I will look at you, look at your gear, and I'll be able to tell if you're going to be okay or not. And no matter what you do, I'll be okay, right? Because I can do this dive on my own. I don't even need you to be there. Like
I can save you. I would be able to save you. I have the
I would
experience.
exactly. I will
So
be able
you're
to
very
save you.
lucky to get Gil as your Insta buddy. Look for him.
But they don't know. But they don't know. How would they know? I look like any other, any other white guy standing on a beach, like any other tourist, essentially. I don't look like a local anywhere I go, right? And you don't know. You don't know. I speak like I'm confident and I got, big ego and all of that shit. But the reality is you're not really sure. So what I try to do with Insta buddies, I always do like a gear check, for example, like a good gear check. And I always talk through the dive and I tell them like what I think they're going to expect. And all of this can take, you know, 4 minutes while you're gearing up. And I also look at their gear and I say what my opinion is of their gear. If I look at someone with a back plate and a long hose, right? And it looks like it's tucked in correctly and everything looks like it's streamlined and I say, it looks like you've made some really good gear choices here. It's different than if I look at the same person, same backplate, same long hose, and everything's like apart, and they have all extra pouches everywhere, and extra like gear hanging on them. And I'm like, look, it's the same gear. It's exactly the same gear. On Amazon, you would find it the same gear. It's the same backplate. It's the same harness. The way they configured it just looks like a mess. I would be able to say like, man, you you need a little bit of work. And they, depending on how they take my criticism or compliments, you can also tell if they're going to be good natured or not. If they're going to be like fun people to hang out with in the water. Because if you can't hang out with someone outside the water, in the water it's not going to be fun.
Yeah, the communication in the water is much more complicated.
Yep.
And if you don't have good communication with somebody outside the water, it's going to be very bad in the water.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
tell
make
people if you want
sure
to know if your
it's fun to
boyfriend,
talk to him, and then it will be fun to talk to him underwater.
I tell people who come with their boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Like if you want to know if you have good communication, go underwater and try to explain your deep feelings to them and see if they know what's going on. Look, you and I, when we have dived together, we were able to just look at each other and do all the signals without even using our hands or anything like that, right? Like we know, like
Yeah,
with a little bit of like this and like that, and we kind of get each other.
we as buddies, the thing that I remember diving with you, that I don't like to look. I always touch you by mistake with my leg. We always like this, very, very close to each other, doing the same dive together. When
Yeah,
somebody's starting to check around things and ignore his body, then it's a dangerous thing to do. And this is what we did. We did very long dives, very close to each other. And of course, we had this good communication and we enjoyed diving together. But uh, sometimes you don't have it and you need to find somebody. So make sure that the buddy you find is somebody that is experienced enough and nice enough and that you're in the same level and the same expectation from the dive. If you expect to do a 60 feet dive for 30 minutes and he expect to go to 110 feet dive for 1 hour and he expect to exit the water with I don't know 100 psi in his tank. So you should know that your expectations are the same and not find yourself in a problem that you tell the guy, listen, I need to go out, and he said, fuck you, I have back tank and I want to go deeper. So
yeah.
you
The
need to make
the
sure that you're in the same level and the same idea about what the dive is. So briefing is very important. Sometimes I think I don't need a briefing. I'm already an experienced diver, but I always go into the water and talk about what we're going to do in the dive, even if it's 2 minutes briefing or
but even
we're going
even
to be in the water.
with my regular buddy that I've dived with a bunch of times, right, for years, the first dive we do on the dive trip, we do one big long briefing, and then it's basically like this is for all of them. All,
Copy paste.
these are copy paste for everything. And I only talk about like, lost buddy and what to do and entry and exit and like different entry and exits if you're doing like a shore dive. If you're doing the same boat dive, you don't need to talk about it. But like you just talk about the specifics of that dive. I think the like when you're talking about selecting a buddy, right, or like talking like finding a buddy, there's the one side is the insta buddy, right, you just find someone, and the other one is like the trust me dive. The trust me dive is like when someone is your insta buddy or someone who's like you consider them to be super experienced, and they have the instructor and cavern instructor and nitrox and this and this and that, and they're like, don't worry, just come with me, trust me, it'll be fine. And I'm like, even that is like if you're really that professional, you're not going on a trust me dive. You're explaining the dive to the person that you're diving with in such a way that it becomes like their dive and not like you're taking a pony bottle and they're your pony. Like they're not like doing you a favor by taking you to some place you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
5 minutes conversation that I know where I'm going into, how long I'm going to be there, how deep I'm going to be there, what is the rule about how much air we need to have in the tank when we start coming back, where we're going to go out, and how. 5 minutes conversation is the difference between a good dive that I'm relaxing it, than a dive that I'm stressing, and maybe even going out with a trauma. And many people had trauma from Trust Me Dive and never came back diving. It's so easy to feel, listen, I felt that I risked my life there. I don't want to do it anymore. And if you're not experienced diver, it's very easy for
So
people
just be
to
scared.
get this decision. Listen, this is not for me. And if you do it correctly, and you just do this conversation, and you take professionals into the water if you're not confident. And if you are confident, you have experience, you take people that you will enjoy diving with and not need to babysit them. And then you can have a very long career of fun dives and not buy the
I
equipment
agree.
and then sell it to Gilad.
Yeah,
Gil will
and
buy it for very cheap from you.
I will buy it
If
very
you,
cheap. And I look, a lot of my equipment, that a bunch of the gear that I have is basically people who know that I dive. They did their first course. They went on their first big dive trip. They came back. They hated it because they did not have fun. And they give me brand new gear that has been in the water 20 times. And I have a new BCD for nothing. And they give it to me at $50 if I pay for
yeah,
it at all.
They
I
pay
think
500.
it, yeah, it's obscene. It's obscene. I mean, if you're like the one diver, the one if you've been in diving for a long time and you're the one diver in like a big group or something like in a university or in somewhere like that, um, you accumulate gear from all these people. I have so many stories about exactly this thing. Like did 20 dives, they were done with it, and it's usually because of these very preventable issues that happen in their first, in the beginning of their experience when they didn't know better. And it's the trust me dives, it's the Insta buddies. I think another one that's more modern problem didn't really exist back in the day. More modern problem is the cameras. Um, I think that it's so easy to buy one of these tiny little GoPros or Insta or what are they? DJI. They all have little housings. And then what happens is that you're not going on a dive, you are going on a camera trip, a camera excursion, I'll call it, because you're not diving. You're a camera holder. That's what you are. You're a tripod for a camera, and you think you're going to be David Attenborough or some other, like the BBC specials. You think it's going to be like National Geographic, and you get bad video. You have a bad experience. You kill the coral around you
You
because you
break
forget
the
to dive
grass around you. Yeah, you go into the ground, you fly
like
to the
this.
surface. Maybe you get even to the, maybe you find yourself in a the oxygen chamber, the pressure chamber, the compression chamber,
Recompression
because
chamber. Yes.
recompression chamber, because you fly to the surface because you were concentrated on your GoPro and you fly from 70 feet to the surface. And by the time you leave the camera and get to your BCD, you're already on the surface and you have the compression
when I
state.
when I
So
go on when I do longer decompression dives, which you don't like to do anymore, but when I'm sitting there forever and ever at like 10 to 5 meters, right, somewhere there, that's where the really long stops are.
day
I'm
before yesterday, I did that 3.5 hours dive. What do you say there?
Yeah, they're different. That's commercial.
Yeah, I had some tools in my hand and I really
Wait,
sweated in very cold water.
we're gonna have to talk about that. We're gonna have to do a whole episode just on the commercial diving aspect, okay, and talk about the helmet and the umbilicals. But what I see a lot, and remember, I am sitting basically close to the entrance, right, or exit. If I'm doing like a shore dive or if it's a boat dive, I'm doing basically like the same thing, right? And so I think that I see people coming in, they're doing like they're trying to get themselves as they're going into the water. Like it's a cool shot. Honestly, it is a cool shot. Like to dive into the water as you're diving in the transition, and they forget to like actually dive the dive. You know what I mean? Like they're
Yeah.
forgetting to actually do the diving portion of the dive, and they just they land on the bottom, and then they finally like remember that they have a BCD. They finally remember that they have ears that they have to clear,
Hmm.
and then they put the camera away for a second, and as soon as they're done, they didn't learn anything. They just grab the camera again and just go right for it.
Well, I gotta tell you, there's been so many dives that I was like the guy that the dive master that took the group or instructor that took the group, and so many times, and I told them in the briefing after, I have seen so many things in this dive that you didn't see.
Yes,
So many things I saw. If you just was close to me, I could point it and you would see something cool, but you are not with me and you're not close to me. And sometimes I see something and it's going into the pool or swimming away. And you miss sometimes sharks, you miss octopus, you miss crazy, colorful things. And you enjoyed your dive, but you could have enjoyed it much, much more. You
I
just was
think I think
missing or I.
in the beginning, I tell people, hey, I have a camera. I stick it right here in my suit. Like I have a camera. Don't worry. I will take video. Any you see something, you tell me. I will be right on it. And I like to dive like this. I think that people are, oh, why are you crowding me? I'm like, if I don't put my hand out like this, and at the end of it, I touch your shoulder, you're in the wrong place. I know, I'm a little bit crazy like that, but there's really
It
no
will be a
reason.
different dive. It will be a different dive. You will see
It's
different things than me if you would be 5 meters from me. And
exactly
if the
because
visibility is not
because
good, you can get lost.
because it's even in the perfect visibility, right? Even if you're in, beautiful Caribbean water, everything is easy. You don't even have a wetsuit. The water is so warm. The light penetration is amazing, right? It's perfect time. This part of the reef right here, because look, the big animals, let's say we both see the manta, the big sharks, okay. But when it comes to like, I'm looking at this part of the reef right now because that's all my mask can see, and I'm scanning it. And you're looking at like literally, 5 feet away from me. You're looking at something else. So if we're close to each other, we can communicate and be like, oh, there's a moray, there's a there, and I know that for myself, when I take the camera out, and I start recording and I start doing videos and I start, I'm messing with it, it's beeping, and I, my buddy who does not have the camera on them like sees something and they point things out to me all the time. I know that I'm missing a lot of things when I have the camera out, and the reality is, one more thing about the camera. I send you, let's say I go on a trip and I send you 20 pictures, right?
Mhm.
You sit on the
Yeah.
bathroom while you're waiting for your kids to finish basketball training or something, trampoline class. You're sitting in
Mhm.
the bathroom. You go like this as fast as possible. You give like a thumbs up emoji and you never look at them again.
Well, you won't believe how many times I've been in the water for 1 hour, and I took total of 6 minutes with my GoPro, and I edited it to 1.5 minute, and then I sent a full video. But 45 minutes of the dive, I was in the diving, not in the filming.
I stopped. So in general, and again, 30 years diving, right? Had a camera for how many years have I had a camera? Like 20 of those years I've had a camera, right?
Yeah.
So I think I bought my first like GoPro style camera, or I had one of those film cameras before. It doesn't matter. I've had like a digital camera that you have unlimited, essentially unlimited, and it's super small and it's very easy to carry. I've had that for 20 years. And so I think over time I've stopped like taking as much video as I used to. And I think that I had one trip where I there were people on shore and there were people in the water, and the people on shore really got into the whole diving. They really wanted to see what was going on, and I took out the video and I showed my computer, like, I take a video of my computer. This is us at 17 meters. Here's what it looks like at 17. Here's what it looks like at 20. Here's what it looks like at 25. That's rare. I never do that. And we actually sat, like these people actually, we put it on the big screen and we went through every single video. And I did long videos. I never do long videos. I usually do like 15 seconds at most, just enough to get one screenshot of whatever it is that I was taking a picture of, put it into the WhatsApp so that you can see it while you're taking a shit. That's really
Yeah.
like, I mean, that's as much as I do. And so I took these long videos when we actually went through it, and they're like, "Oh, look at that! Oh, you're at 22 meters. Look at the visibility." I was like, "That's that's so rare. It's almost never happened to me. Like it is so rare that people are actually interested in these long videos that you take of blue water or whatever. I mean, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. Being there is amazing, amazing. The video afterwards on a screen like this, or especially if you have a cell phone, like the screen is this big, uh, it's it just is it's not the same as the experience, right? Being there is the thing.
When we were in the Maldives together 2017, I have two videos unedited that I did that I hold the camera for more than a minute, but
Yeah.
not much more. In both of these videos, you would see 20 different animals. In one of them, you would see like 8 manta rays, and in the other one, you will see like 5 different sharks and crazy big animals, and it will be constant. You see more animals, it will be crazy shot. And 1 minute, this is what I will take. This is need to be crazy for me to take a film of 90 seconds.
In Palau, I took a lot of video because I knew that I was probably never going to be back there again. It was a once in a lifetime trip. Um, I think so. I think for newer people, if you're going on your first trip, the camera is can be a good can be good. Like it's nice to have the video afterwards. It makes you like, more involved. I think it diminishes some, like it makes the experience a little bit less, like your experience a little bit less because you see less things. So if you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend and you're the better diver and you're taking videos of them, I think it's the correct thing to do because it gets them more
Mhm.
involved. I think they like
Yeah.
seeing themselves afterwards, but you are sacrificing your happiness and your fun trip for their, you know, like for their benefit.
Well, what I got from this conversation is that if diving center in Palau see this, they can send us a flight ticket and we'll come do the podcast over there.
Oh my
And
God, they have to send
you
us a
you
flight
can go
ticket
to
so we
Palau again,
we have to go
and
there
then
and we have to show how
no
beautiful Palau
background,
is.
no, yeah,
No
no
background.
background. We'll show you
We'll
where
do
we
it
are.
from the water.
Okay, we are open for that.
Oh my God, I would jump on that in like an instant. I would love it. If Scuba Pro wants to, send us there, I would be very happy. One last thing about like just in general, your first big trip. Remember that most of the trip, even if you're going to do 20 dives, that's 20 hours out of 7 days. That's you're in the water. The rest of the time is traveling. Find good travel companions first. Don't worry about if they're good divers or not. Don't worry
Yeah.
about how good their gear is. Don't worry about like find people who are good travel companions. They don't get lost in a crowd. They don't like, go off on their own in Mexico without you knowing where they are. And
And get
just
a good, comfortable liveaboard and good cook to make your meals, and you're covered.
okay, all right. That too. Get a good liveaboard, but more importantly, don't jump on that first big, liveaboard trip or that first big, like don't try to make it big on the first time out. Like slowly build up
Yeah,
to it and then you can do it. And then I think you'll enjoy that money goes further if you just spend it, wisely. I think
definitely.
so.
I agree.
Mr. Hammer,
Okay.
it has been a pleasure. Thank you so, so much today. We will post this. I will post this today. Thank you, everyone, for still being with us. And here, let me stop the recording. Thank you, everyone, for still being with us. Adios.